Assalamualaikum students. How are you all? I hope that all of you are very fine by the grace of Allah Ta'ala. Today we are going to start our lesson number 3 by our chapter number 2 in the book. But first of all, you will have to take out your textbook and put that in front of you. So it will help you to understand the explanation more clearly. Okay, students, take out page number 27, and the title of the chapter number 2 is Computer Components. In this lesson, we will study about the different components of computer. And this chapter is totally based on the hardware of the computer. Do you know that what is a hardware? A hardware is the physical parts of the computer, like those parts which you can see physically with your naked eye, like different devices, monitor, mouse, computer. Basically, the look of the computer is hardware. In this chapter, we will study about the different main components of the computer, which are central processing unit, buses, memory, input and output devices, and ports. We will study all these components in detail. So, on page number 27, the topic is starting, which is Central Process Unit. All of you are familiar with the Central Processing Unit, which is CPU. CPU is the brain of the computer. Like, as your brain is controlling your body, same as that, CPU controls the functions of the computer. CPU is considered as the most important element of a computer system. CPU transforms the rough data into meaningful information. आप सबको पता है कि CPU को कंप्यूटर का ब्रेन कहा जाता है और CPU कंप्यूटर के फंक्शंस को और उसके सिस्टम को कंट्रोल करता है. जैसे कि बड़े बड़े मशीन्स होते हैं, उनमें जो CPUs प्रेजेंट होते हैं उनमें बहुत सारे सर्किट बोर्ड्स होते हैं, लेकिन जो पर्सनल कंप्यूटर का CPU होता है वो सिर्फ एक चिप से कंट्रोल होता है, जिसे माइक्रो प्रोसेसर कहा जाता है. On page number 28, there is a diagram given, which is the block diagram of computer. As you can see in this figure, the block diagram of computer is described easily. It has the processor, which is CPU, and it has two units, CU and ALU. Then memory unit consists primary memory and secondary memory, and the primary memory consists the input unit and output unit. Study the diagram which is given in your book properly, so you will understand the structure of CPU. The different functions of CPU are: it interprets the data and the given instructions. CPU also controls the signals. It performs arithmetic and logic operations. and it produces bits needed by memory. Like the major functions of the computer are controlled by CPU. The two main typical components of CPU are arithmetic and logic unit, which is ALU, and control unit, which is CU. On page number 29, the next topic is study, which is arithmetic and logical unit. Now, what does this unit of CPU do? The ALU performs the different arithmetic operations. Arithmetic and logical unit में ही इसका मतलब छुपा हुआ है arithmetic and it is related to the mathematics. और mathematics में हम क्या सीखते हैं और क्या करते हैं? Addition, subtraction, division and multiplication. So, the work of ALU is to perform different arithmetic operations which is related to the calculations. Okay, in simple words, it does the calculations and some logical operations like comparing two numbers and telling that which number is greater and which number is lesser than other and which numbers are equal to each other. So, all the mathematical operations and the calculations are performed by the ALU. Now, the next unit of the CPU is control unit, which is CU. All the computer's resources are managed by the CU. It works like a traffic. All of you are familiar with the work of a traffic police, right? Like the traffic police controls the traffic at the road. Same as that, control unit controls the flow of data between the components of CPU and other devices. जैसा कि हम सबको पता है कि ट्रैफिक पुलिस रोड पर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल करते हैं, राइट? उसी तरह कंट्रोल यूनिट CPU में डेटा का फ्लो कंट्रोल करता है. The CU of the CPU comprises of registers which function as temporary storage devices. It is connected with the memory of the computer. Basically, the control unit extracts instructions from memory and executes them. The CU controls the input and output devices, and it also controls the data transfer from memory. CU इनपुट एंड आउटपुट डिवाइसेस को कंट्रोल करता है और मेमोरी से डेटा ट्रांसफ़र करने में हेल्प करता है. The next topic is buses, which is on page number 30. Buses are also the components of a computer. Buses are the processors that communicates with input and output circuits and memory by using different signals. These signals travel along a set of wires or connections called bus that connect the different components together. For example, that buses transfers the data from one component to the other component, like it connects the different components like CU with ALU, memory with CU, This is all the connection between all the components by the buses. The local buses that connects element within CPU and buses which connect the computer to external memory and peripherals. बसेस एक ऐसा प्रोसेसर है या ऐसा कंपोनेंट है जो कि कंप्यूटर के दूसरे कंपोनेंट्स में डेटा का फ़्लो करने में हेल्प करता है, जैसे कि कंट्रोल यूनिट को मेमोरी यूनिट से कनेक्ट करने में, ALU को CPU से कनेक्ट करने में, और इसी तरह डिफरेंट कंपोनेंट्स आपस में कनेक्टेड रहते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ बसेस. नाउ buses are of three types. Number 1, address bus. Number 2, control bus. And number 3 is data bus. Okay, now what is an address bus? The work of address bus is to transfer address from the CPU to the main memory. Basically, address bus transmits the address to CPU that when will the CPU read or when will the CPU write. A collection of wires connecting the CPU with main memory that is used to identify particular locations. As you all know that address is connected with the locations, right? So the address bus helps the CPU to find out that where is data stored in the main memory. The next bus is control bus. Now, what is the function of a control bus? A control bus is the connection between the CPU and the other devices that are present in the computer. जैसा कि एड्रेस बस का काम है कि वो CPU और मेन मेमोरी को आपस में कनेक्ट करता है. ओके, वो CPU से इंफॉर्मेशन ट्रांसमिट करता है और CPU को ये जानने में हेल्प करता है कि मेन मेमोरी में डेटा कहाँ स्टोर हुआ है. ओके, बट कंट्रोल बस का जो कनेक्शन है वो CPU और कंप्यूटर के अदर डिवाइसेस के बीच में होता है, और कंट्रोल बस CPU को दूसरे डिवाइसेस के कंडीशन के बारे में इन्फॉर्म करता है कि दूसरे डिवाइसेस का क्या स्टेटस है. The next bus is data bus. Now, what is the function of a data bus? A data bus is a communication route between the computer's CPU, memory, and other peripheral devices. Data connects all of these three components of a computer, like CPU, memory, and the different devices are in connection with the help of data bus. It means कि data bus computer के CPU, memory और peripheral devices सबको आपस में connected रखता है और सब के बीच में data का जो flow होता है उसे manage करता है. Okay? The function of address bus is to connect CPU and memory. The function of control bus is to connect CPU and other devices of the computer. And the function of the data bus is to maintain the communication between the CPU, memory, and the peripheral devices. On page number 31, we have our next topic, which is memory storage. In this topic, we will study about the memory of computer, that how the memory of computer stores the information and data. Memory is the storage device inside your computer where data, information, and programs stores. The basic type of memory is a set of chips. Chip is very small, in which different circuits are attached, and this memory storage device is present in the motherboard. Now, What is a motherboard? A motherboard is present in the central processing unit of the computer. मदरबोर्ड CPU में प्रेजेंट होता है और एक ये इसका जो शेप होता है वो रेक्टेंगुलर कार्ड की तरह होता है और ये कंप्यूटर के प्रोसेसर को दूसरे डिवाइसेस या दूसरे हार्डवेयर से कनेक्ट करता है. Mostly in the personal computers, many internal devices like video cards, sound cards, and other devices are present on the motherboard. The data can be stored in the memory storage of a computer in two ways. Number one, internal memory, and number two is external memory. Internal memory is known as the basic memory because it is present in the computer. But the external memory can be stores data by using tapes, disks, and other devices like USBs, CDs, cassettes, and etc. Let's study about the internal memory of a computer. The internal memory of a computer is also known as primary storage and main memory. The internal memory is the memory which is stored within the computer. There are two types of memory, which is random access memory RAM, and the second type is read only memory ROM. The RAM is the first type of internal memory. A RAM is a memory in which a data can be stored temporarily, because when the computer is turned off, the data which is stored in internal memory can be lost. मतलब रैम में जो भी डेटा स्टोर होता है वो तब तक स्टोर रहता है जब तक कंप्यूटर पावर ऑन है, बट जैसे ही कंप्यूटर को पावर ऑफ किया जाता है वो सारा डेटा लॉस्ट हो जाता है, यानी खो जाता है, वो उसमें सेव नहीं रहता. On the other hand, ROM is a type of internal memory in which the data can be stored permanently. Like when the computer is turned off, the data is not lost, it is saved in the computer. The ROM saved that data that is necessary to start or to function the computer. मतलब ROM में वो डेटा स्टोर होता है जो कि कंप्यूटर को ऑपरेट करने के लिए नेसेसरी है. ओके, so when the computer is turned off, the data which is stored in ROM cannot be lost. So the next topic is external memory. Now, what is the function of external memory? The external memory is known as the second storage memory, which is also a non-volatile memory, and it is a kind of external memory of a computer. Secondary storage devices are USBs, disks, cassettes, and all the other devices like CDs. They can store or they can connect to the computer, but they are not the basic memory of the computer. They are the other different devices which are not the part of computer, but they can store the data of computer. सेकेंडरी स्टोरेज डिवाइसेस वो डिवाइसेस होते हैं जो कि कंप्यूटर में प्रेजेंट नहीं होते, बट वो कंप्यूटर से कनेक्ट हो सकते हैं और उसमें हम सारा डेटा स्टोर कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि USB, CDs और कैसेट्स वगैरह. तो इन डिवाइसेस को कंप्यूटर से कनेक्ट किया जा सकता है और उस डेटा को वापस हासिल किया जा सकता है. सो दिस इज़ द एक्सटर्नल मेमोरी ऑफ द कंप्यूटर. द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक इज़ इनपुट output devices, which is on page number 32. The input output devices are pronounced as I-O. I means EYEI because input and output devices works as the eyes and ears of the computer. Like input और output devices computer के आँख और कान जैसा काम करते हैं. Now, what are the functions of different input and output devices? They enter the data into the computer and they will give the output or the results of the computer. What are the examples of some input and output devices? They are printers, hard disks, keyboards, mice, etc. Mice is the plural of mouse. All of you are familiar with these devices. You are familiar with printer, you are familiar with keyboard, you are familiar with mouse. These are all the input and output devices. Now we will study about the input devices and output devices. So, what is an input device? An input device is a physical equipment that can help us to enter the data into the monitor or into the computer. Like जैसे कि हमें कंप्यूटर को कुछ इंस्ट्रक्शन देना है या हमें कंप्यूटर पे कुछ काम करना है तो हम कैसे करेंगे. अगर हमारे पास कीबोर्ड या माउस नहीं होगा तो हम कंप्यूटर में काम किस तरह कर सकते हैं या हम अपना डेटा या इंफॉर्मेशन या कंप्यूटर को इंस्ट्रक्शंस नहीं दे सकते. So those devices which helps us to instruct the computer or to enter the information into the computer are known as input devices. Like with the help of keyboard you can enter number, alphabets, different characters in the computer. You can type with the help of keyboard, okay, and then you can control the computer with the help of mouse. So the keyboard and mouse are the input devices. Now, what are the output devices? The output devices are used for the results of the computer. Like you add the input or you give the instruction to the computer with the help of input device. Then the result of that input will be given by the computer with the help of an output device. Like if you want something to read or to print on the paper, so the printer will help you to print that information or data. So those devices which gives you the input or results of the computer are known as output devices. जैसे कि आपने कंप्यूटर पे एक डॉक्यूमेंट टाइप किया और आप चाहते हैं कि वो उस फॉर्म में आपके पास आए जिससे आप इजीली पढ़ सकें, तो आप क्या करेंगे, आप प्रिंटर यूज़ करेंगे. प्रिंटर एक आउटपुट डिवाइस है जो कि उस डेटा को या उस डॉक्यूमेंट को पेपर पे प्रिंट कर देगा ताकि आप इजीली उस डॉक्यूमेंट को पढ़ सकें. Some output devices are printers, monitors, speakers, etc.